Hey family, and welcome back to Awaken Life. If you haven't already, please follow, like, subscribe, and share our content here if you hear something that you appreciate or if you think someone else that you know could benefit from. So I wanted to discuss today, it has to do with parenting, but a lot of parents that I know and a lot of people that I see that are sharing experiences about how they've grown up, there's a consistent theme when it comes to their parents. And it's almost that they're afraid to be themselves, that they have this idea of what exactly a parent should be. And I'm not talking about responsibility like providing food and clothing and shelter for your child, but a persona of what a parent should be. And I just wanted to share a little bit about just the power of authenticity in your parenting. And so, when my oldest daughter was about 6 years old, I began having family meetings with her where I asked her perspective on how she was experiencing me as a mother. We would dialogue, and she would say all kinds of stuff. She didn't really appreciate me enforcing the rules around hygiene and cleanliness as far as cleaning her room. But then she also brought up really, really great points that I needed to work on. And so, for whatever reason, I was keenly aware that I didn't have this parenting thing down, and I really genuinely was curious as to how my daughter was experiencing me. And so that kind of set the template for how I decided to parent all of my children, where I didn't assume that the default was that I was right. I didn't assume that my perspective on what my children were doing was their perspective, in terms of like intention and what they were thinking. And so over the years, it's helped to facilitate a level of connection and respect between us that I am hearing and finding out is a barrier with a lot of parents and their children. And so when you lean on, because I said so, um, attitude, just very harsh. I don't know if it's authoritarian or authoritative. I know those two are different in the parenting styles. But the one that's more like rigid and domineering is rarely effective. I can't even say that it's effective for you as a parent ultimately, because what I've seen time and time again and also experienced is it causes a rift between you and your child when it comes to connection, respect, and to love. And so one of the things that I just kind of decided early on is like, hey, I can just be me, and authentically being me, I know I don't have this thing down, so let's talk about it. I want to hear your perspective. Let's grow together. And as life changes, let's continue to grow and you know, move forward together. And so when I say authenticity, I don't mean permissiveness, but what I do mean is you're a unique person with your own experiences. You are a person that has had their ups and downs. You have your own family background that you came from. And if you're just honest with your children in a child appropriate way about your shortcomings and your strengths, what's comfortable and what's going on in this season, I think you'd be surprised at how connecting it could be. So, for instance, the last couple of years has been a super heavy grief season for my family and I. And I remember in 2020 when my grandmother passed away, like we were kind of anticipating it. She was in hospice at home, like in our family home space. And we pretty much were looking at all of the signs like, okay, this is going to be something, she's going to be transitioning soon. And I kept preparing myself by saying, yes, she's probably not going to be here in 2 weeks. She's probably not going to be here in a week. She's probably not going to be here tomorrow. In all the ways that I could, but nothing prepared me for the overwhelming, crushing reality that my best friend was no longer here. So my grandmother happened to be my best friend. We've been tight, close since I was a baby. Like, she's just been so consistent in that position in my life. And I remember feeling all the things. I remember feeling like I was breaking open, and then having a conversation with my children, because I wasn't familiar with the feeling that I felt in that moment of grief. And I remember telling them, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to cook. Like, I like to cook with love. I like to show up in this way. This is something that brings me joy. But I didn't have any joy in that moment. And instead of just like falling off and just not cooking, I kind of let them know, like, fam, I don't feel like anything. Like, I might just be in this bed. I can't tell you anything about anything. I can't make you any guarantees. I'm overwhelmed. I'm sad. I'm devastated. But let's order out, because I know that you guys need to be fed. Don't be alarmed if you see tears randomly running down my face. It was one of the first times in my life that I allowed myself to just freely weep. I want to say cry, but like, I was like seriously weeping randomly in those early days. And I was just transparent with them. And so, they were very loving and caring and nurturing in those seasons, whether it was just like a silent hug, or not being too rowdy, or whatever the case may be. But I was authentically in that moment of grief. I was not trying to hold it all together. I was not trying to pretend and be super mom and act like I'm just going to whip up some stuff and then be cooking and preparing food in a way that's not in alignment with my values. I want to cook with love. I want to cook with joy. And that's just one example of like how authenticity can translate and strengthen your relationships. Because now I've shown my children that it's okay to grieve in whatever way that you need to. It's also okay to communicate with your loved ones if there's going to be changes that are affecting them, and that it's okay to feel all the things that you feel, that it's a part of the human experience. And so if you're someone who's out there that has found yourself caught up in the persona of what you believe to be parenting is, and in your heart and your spirit that it's not congruent with who you really are, I want to just take this moment to free you up. It's important for your children to know who you actually authentically are. They see you. They know when you're not being genuine. They can see the hypocrisy from a mile away, honey. So if you think you're fooling them, you're not. But there will be a level of relief and permission that you give them when you're showing up as your full self in that parenting space, and authentically sharing with them who you are and the ebbs and the flows of life as they change you, or as things need to change, that you're communicating with them. And it really just creates a beautiful bond and understanding of who you are just as a human being, as a parent. And it gives them permission so that when they grow up and they have your grandchildren, that they know that they can be themselves, that they don't have to have this upkeep and this facade that in some moments it just gets broken, and then you just cause yourself more stress and anxiety because you're now trying to keep up with something that you never should have been keeping up with in the first place. So let's just get free from that today. It may not be easy, it may be uncomfortable, but I'm telling you, there's nothing more powerful than your children knowing who you are truly, and knowing that you feel comfortable enough within yourself to be that person with them, to communicate clearly and honestly with them, and to be in your family home space as yourself, and it will allow them to be who they are in this space. And so hopefully something I shared today resonated with you. Like I said, I've been seeing these and having these conversations with folks that are like adults, late 20s to 40s, that still feel like their parents, who might be in their 50s and 60s, are trying to hold together this facade, and they don't feel like they can connect to them. And so let's just do the next generation a solid and show up as ourselves authentically in love, or in whatever. If my children know who I am, good, bad, or indifferent, you know what I mean? And that's a gift. So you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Again, if you haven't already, please like, follow, subscribe, and share this message with someone that you think might benefit from it. I apologize for the delay in videos. I've been away at a conference for a few days. I actually got to the conference a bit early, And honey, I was just in a whirlwind. I will go ahead and post a video about that experience. I mean, I came back home and was still floating for a couple of days. I didn't even feel like I was home. It was such a tremendous and amazing experience. And so I'll share a little bit more about that conference with you in a separate video. But I thank you guys for sticking around and checking in and plugging in for each video. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.